Welcome to the SNS show, hosted by executive producers Dr. Michelle Stevens, along with her co host, Coach Yava Swearington, as they focus on important issues within our society, from the highs and lows of surviving everyday life, and so much more. And now, here are your hosts.
Make it sizzle, make it hot. Why you can't make it to the altar? That question we'll be talking about today. Hi, I'm Dr. Stevens, your host. Thank you for tuning in to our season 1, episode 2 of the Dr. Stevens and Swearington show. Along with me is my co-host, Coach Yava Swearington.
Hello and welcome. Today we are excited to be kicking off our second episode entitled Dating and Why You Can't Make It to the Altar.
The question is why you can't make it to the altar. But I want to ask you, are you marriage material or are you a wife? Coach, what do you say?
Well, you're asking the question. Me, I'm definitely marriage material. But for others out there, I'm noticing that women are finding it a very difficult time in making it to their altar. So, what do I think about that? I think that people have a hard time getting there because of a lot of different reasons. Some of the reasons are attitude, not willing to be submissive, not willing to compromise. There are many different reasons I would say about that. But Dr. Stevens, what else do you think about that?
Well, you know what, Coach? I've seen a whole lot of YouTube videos and Instagram and heard too many women talking about they're looking for husbands or they want a husband. But do they even understand what a wife is? Or are they just temporary? So I have these questions, because when you've seen them, you've seen the women, they're sitting around talking about, I want a husband. They looking, one, they shouldn't be looking for a husband. They should be waiting for a husband to look for them. But I've seen women on YouTube and their bras and panties, scantily dressed, talking about they want a husband. And when I think about wanting and desiring to be married and wanting a husband, then you got to think about a person's character. What are they willing to compromise on? Because you have to compromise. But better yet, their position. One, I would ask these questions to women that are looking to be found and desiring to be married. Are you submissive? Because when we start talking to women about being submissive, they get an attitude. That's a very controversial word when it comes to women, especially women of today. Back when our parents were growing, when I was younger, being submissive was something that was expected. So that word, we could really dive in deep, just talk about being submissive.
Mm, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, I tend to agree
Go
with
ahead,
you.
Coach.
Yeah, absolutely. I tend to agree with you on that. It's so many different reasons why women are having this. I think is a big concern. I don't think it's just started happening these years. I think it's always been a issue for women and getting to the altar. So, and
Well, you know
respect.
what? I can't say it's really been an issue, because when I grew up in my neighborhood, there was two parents in every house. I didn't grow up in a neighborhood where there were single mothers, unless the father died. And I've known some friends whose father passed, but I grew up in a neighborhood where there was a mother and a father in the home. These people were married,
Yeah, I get you.
and the women were getting married. But now, because so many things have entered into society, they made so much stuff acceptable. Um, you know, Teenage pregnancies, women going to sperm banks, getting, being in order to have babies without husbands. So
Hmm.
many things have become acceptable, but we're talking about why dating and why you can't make it to the altar. I also believe that when you're asking these questions, you have to think about right now.
Mhm.
Single women are displaying a lot of masculinity. So when you want to be married and you want to make it to the altar, you have to think about a man's position. What position, especially if he is an alpha male. Men want to be leaders in their home. So can you allow a man to lead you? Do you even know what that means?
Mhm.
This is a question you need to ask yourself. This is a question I would ask women. Can you follow a man's vision?
Mhm.
Can you support his vision while having your own vision? Do you trust his vision?
Mhm.
That's very questionable. When you think about being in a relationship, especially when you talk about being married, for me, I like a man that's a leader. I like a man with a vision. I like a man who's very strong. His personality has to be strong because I know me. I'm a strong woman, you
Mhm.
know, and I know you, coach. You have a strong personality as well. So a weak man won't do.
Definitely not. But let me piggyback a little bit on some of the things that I heard you say in the beginning of this conversation. I think it's because, women are a lot more liberated today, than the yesteryears. That's probably why you had two parents in a home, Now, because we are now working jobs and making the kind of income that men make, women are not feeling like they need the man too much anymore. I mean, yeah, we still want a man there, but women are not wanting to be controlled by men. And a lot of men come with a lot of control issues. That's what I tend to think anyway. So I think this is why we are having so much, I guess, less men in the home, because women aren't able to take care of their home without you.
Well, you know what? I think when you talk about control, I don't. Let's go back because you said something about the women. I grew up in a house where my mother and father both worked. So when it came to, although my father was the head of the house and he provided that, he maintained that roof over our head. And that was one thing that I was raised to believe, that a man's supposed to maintain the roof over your head. And I won't deviate off of that. But you cannot say that you want to make it to the altar and you have a man that's a leader. And if you got a man that's, I don't call them beta men, I call them Charlie men, when you can run them around,
Mm-hmm.
then you're not going to be happy with that, because every woman wants a strong man. I don't care how strong her personality is. But
Mm-hmm.
if she's not willing to compromise, I don't want to say yield because it is yielding. Because
Mm-hmm.
anytime you submit, submissiveness just means to submit. And in submitting, that means you are allowing that person to be in their position and able to run it without you trying to take control. That you're willingly and able to follow that person's vision, and let them be in their position and be happy. And because what women don't understand is, when you allow a man, I don't want to even use the word allow, but when you allow, you submit and let this individual be in the right position, the pressure, the that it takes off of you, the peace that you have in allowing them to actually be in their role, it's unfathomable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, um, for me, I know the peace that I have when I don't have to worry. And that's one thing women of today don't realize. The ones that where submissiveness is, when being submissive is a problem, they don't realize that the peace that it brings, the lack of worry, when you actually have this person in position and doing their role, it brings so much peace. But
Mm-hmm.
another thing is I was saying, vision. Are you dating someone with a vision? Because even the word of God says, "My people perish for the, without a vision. The people perish." So if you
Mm-hmm.
don't have a vision, where are you going? How can you allow someone to lead you? And I believe, Coach, that's one of the problems women have today too, is that they're not meeting men with a vision, or either they're not talking about it.
Right. I kind of agree with you on that as well. Like you said, for me, I'm a very outspoken. I take the lead in a lot of things, but I allow my husband. I'm gonna say allow, because that may come off not right. But
Right.
what I'm trying to say is, it's like,
Submit to.
it's I don't even like the word submit.
Well, it is when you
So
when you
submissive
when you
and
when
all
you
this
when
kind of
you
thing. Because it just, I don't know, I don't like that. But to me, it's more like, you know, it's a it's an even ground. Like it's like a 50-50 in my home. You know, I allow my husband to do the things a man's supposed to do. You know, I'm like you. I came from a home where a man take care home, you know, even though I
but
make money and I work, that's not a requirement, but how I need to feel good about my own self. I don't want any man feeling like going to just take care of me and that I don't do anything but sit here and take care of home. No, I got to feel like things are important just as well. So for me in my household, you know, we share a lot of things, but I have my women role and he have the men roles in our home, and then we find balance. And I think women don't know how to do that. They don't know how to
well,
find
let
balance.
me let me let me piggyback on that balance because when we talk about submitting, the word of God says submit you one to another. As you were saying, you and your husband both, and you do. You have to submit to one another, and in doing that, all you're saying is, yes, honey, I'm be in my place, and I'm willing to submit. I'm willing to um was a word I thought of. It's just we went clean out my mind. But what you're doing is you're sitting back and you're saying, you know what? I'm submitting to you to go ahead and take this lead. Um, I don't want to use the word compromise. It was a word I can't think of it. I'm gonna have to come back to it. When my brain clicked back into the word, it flew out. I'm gonna come back to it. But one of
Yeah.
the other things is, is trust. Can you trust? A lot of women don't trust either.
Hmm.
Trusting is a problem. And because they don't trust, and that goes deep. That's deep rooted when you don't trust. A lot of
Mhm.
women don't trust men because of some of the scars and the baggage that they bring to the
Mhm.
relationship. I don't want to say bring to the table because we've all have experienced some things, but when you're not healed, and because as you had said in the beginning, you mentioned control when you thinking when you thinking submissiveness or submitting is allowing someone to control you, that is the wrong thought. They're not controlling you. You are agreeing. You
Mhm.
are agreeing that this is how we're going to operate.
Mhm.
And you have to be comfortable with allowing that person to lead. You
Mhm.
know, that's one of the reasons I mentioned vision. Can you follow? A matter of fact, you have to date someone with a vision. You have to have a vision because you have to have a vision for yourself. You have to have a vision for your relationship. You have to have a vision for your family. You have to have a vision for the community that you want to be a part of. Vision is deep. And though, do you trust his vision? Do you have a vision? Can you follow his vision while you're still following your vision? Do you even have these type of conversations? And if not, then the question you should be asking yourself is, am I temporary?
Mhm. Mhm. Wow, you said a mouthful there, Dr. Stevenson,
I
on that
know,
note.
I know, coach.
On that note, it's like for I ain't gonna say for me. I'm gonna say in general. I just think that it's a lot goes on in the courtship and dating and getting to know someone before you can even get to the word marriage. You know what I'm saying? It's like women have to separate single life, because I think that's another problem. You know, I've talked to women before. They still want to do the things they did when they met the guy, going out, hanging out with their girls. But yeah, you can do that, but there's got to be some balance there. You know, you can't just do it 3 or 4 days out of the week. You know, and when you're thinking about being in a committed relationship, there's a lot of things you have to kind of give up to secure that spot with a man. So
Well, you
I
know what? I don't want to say give up. I don't want to say give up, but the best word I think because you don't really, yeah, when you're single and you're hanging out with your girlfriend, yes, you're right. There are some things you do have to give up. You can't hang
some
out all night.
remember I
But
said
when
some things. That doesn't
yes,
mean you giving up a lot of things, but you do have to tone it down, like all the way down. Because your man might have found you out there like that, but that's not what he wants you to keep on doing. And he can't consider you for a wifey if that's what you still want to do. And a lot of women had attitudes. You know
right,
what?
and you know
I'm
what,
not
coach?
giving up this. You know, this you knew me like this when you met me, kind of stuff. And wait a minute, you need a mind shift.
But then exactly, you have a paradigm shift in your thinking. And the other word, when it comes to being submissive and you all getting along, is cooperation. Can you cooperate, with your partner, with I'm not going to say partner,
Mm-hmm.
because that's another level for me. With the person that you are believing, dating, and hoping to get to the altar with,
Mm-hmm.
can you cooperate with that individual, or are you one of those head bobbing, back talking, masculine, energy bringing women? You
Mm-hmm.
know,
I,
so
I think for men, there's a lot more things, they don't really say much, but they think a lot of things quietly to themselves while they are observing you, watching you. They're watching how you act around there. If they take you around people they know, family, whether it's family or friends, some of them don't even take you around family. There's a lot of things they're considering. There are a lot of things they think kind of quietly to themselves before they even think about marrying you. Do they have? Are they able to tell what your values are? Does it align up with their values? What's your personality like? How
mhm,
do you
mhm.
look? How do you dress? It's a lot of things like these things that women probably not paying much attention to, that the men really are paying attention to. And how about this? Do they even really get along with you? Do they have fun with you? Are you a fun person? Are you one of them mean people walking around with attitude? You look like you mean all the time. Man don't want to be around you, and he damn sure don't want to take you around his people. So there's
Exactly.
a lot
So,
of
and
things,
I have
a
a
lot of
question.
little things like that is going on before a man even think about taking a woman to the altar.
Right. And on that note, I have a question here.
Sure.
Because this is a deep conversation. When we're talking about dating and expecting to make it to the altar, I like to ask the question: do you date men who are husbands, or do you date boyfriends? How do you find the information out? Because one
Mm,
of the things you have to really
that's-
realize is that when you're dating, especially I'm the type of person who date on purpose.
mm,
So it's just I'm the type of woman who date on purpose. I don't date men who just want to have a girlfriend, or who just want to have a fling, or I date on purpose. I'm a wife. So, and I desire to be married. And in that case, you need to date someone who has that same mindset. He's a husband. He knows he's a husband. And he desires to be one. He desires to be married.
mm-hmm.
And then
Okay.
that's important. Do you date husbands? Do you date boyfriends?
Well, and speaking in reference to that, like I believe, how about you find that out in the beginning of getting to know a man? Like, ask the question. You
You
don't have
have to ask
you
that
don't
question.
you don't have to come straight out, but like when you're going out to dinner, try to pick his head a little bit. Just don't be like all out with it, because he's gonna be like, well, slow down, park the brakes a little bit. But you got to be tactful about how you seek information from men that you're considering. And a lot of times, that kind of a little bit of that information is kind of disclosed in the beginning of courting a person.
Mm-hmm.
But the
Mm-hmm.
question
Absolutely.
becomes, are you really paying attention?
Yes. And as you said, you don't come right out in the beginning, but at some point in time, you need to ask that individual, do they desire to be married? Are they a husband?
Hmm.
So that's important. That's
I don't even
very
see how
important.
people can't even get to knowing a little bit of that information. Because, like, when I go back in my time zone and I think about when I started dating, like when we went out to eat, what was our conversation about? You know what
That's
I'm
important right there.
saying? Because
That's
that's
important.
where a lot of this information is at. And my thought is, how about when they even ask you to even date them? They kind of lay out what they really want, even with that. Well, I'm looking to date, get to know somebody, and I'm not sure where it may go, but I'm also looking for, a long-term committed relationship. Hopefully I'll think about getting married someday. I'm not right now. They'd be quick to tell you not right now, but they let you know that it's still something that they would consider. And then you got something out there be like, I know I'm not going to be dating. I mean, I'll date you, but I'm not looking to have
Hey,
no children.
well, you
I'm
know
not
what,
looking to go to
Coach?
the altar. None of that.
Well, that leads us right into this next topic. How long should someone date before getting married? You know, do you have a timeline? Is there a timeline? I
Mhm.
know for me, I have a timeline. I don't believe in dating someone for years upon years upon years before we get to the altar, have that conversation. There should be a conversation.
Mm.
Coach, what do you think about a timeline?
Well, this is a tough question, and there is no one shoe fit all. It ultimately comes down to, a lot of different things when you're dating someone. Um, I don't believe in long term relationship. That I never understood that. Like people who date 5 years and 10 years, but somewhere under 2 years, you kind of know what I kind of know what I want within 90 days. I can tell if I want to stay with you or continue to court you, you know. And after the 6 month mark, like close to a year, either we vibing or we not. Either you know what you want or you don't. And I really don't got time for men that don't know what they want.
But you know what, Coach? I'm a firm believer, and I agree with you on that because I believe men also know they have. There are some men who already, when they set out looking, they said that they know they want to be married, and
Mm,
that's what they seek out a wife. I've seen it happen many times. When a guy is ready to be married, he goes, he got a wife. Then you have those who date you, they want to be married, but they're not sure you're the one, you know. But you should be having a conversation.
mm-hmm,
There should be a
mm-hmm,
conversation in there somewhere,
mm-hmm.
especially after 6 months of dating someone, especially after a year. For they know. And my father always told me a man knows when he's dating you because he knows, everybody has a list. We all have a list that we're checking off. You all know, just like women, men have a list. They know the qualities of a woman that they're looking for. They know the type of woman they want to take home to meet their mama. Men know. So I have a timeline.
Hmm.
You
And
know, some people don't have a timeline. For me, I have a timeline, and I believe when you're talking about dating to get to the altar or wanting to be married, there should be a timeline. Coach, what's your take?
that's true because I'm gonna tell you. Matter of fact, I'm gonna get a little personal. Like the husband I'm married to today, about to go on 20 years. But I clearly remember after hitting year two, I was like looking for ultimatums. Either I'm putting it on, like either you are or you're not. Because if you're not, I'm moving, and you need to go your way. I need to go my way because I don't need you taking up too much of my time because I know what I want. You know, and you know what? I clearly remember him not even trying to answer those questions because he really wasn't ready. But it finally did happen. But like I said, there is a point in the relationship that we're gonna have that discussion whether he ready for it or not, because I need to know what you want to do, how you want to move, and I need to find out does it align up to what I want and what I'm looking for. Because it don't waste my time. You need to move on because you blocking somebody else's entry. Move
On that note, we're going to take a quick break. And when we return, we're going to be talking about the pick me versus the modern day women. We'll be right back.
Hey, it's your girl, Coach Mea, asking you to join the conversation on the SNS show, hosted by executive producer Dr. Michelle Stevens, along with her co host, Coach Yava Swearington, sharing an in depth conversations on relationships, health and wellness, important issues in our society, to the highs and lows of surviving everyday life. Streaming live on YouTube at DRSNS Show. That's DRSANDSSHOW. Monthly, every fourth Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. A conversation you don't want to miss. This show is also powered by Kweliworks Empowerment Network.
Welcome back. Dr. Stevens, we're talking about this very hot topic that's circulating right now, the pick me woman versus the modern day woman. But before we get into this conversation, can you give our viewers the definition of both?
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to hold off on that definition for one moment because you know, I really want to dive deep into some of the ideas and um, of what we see, and then we're going to come back to the definition. Coach, and one of the reasons I'm holding off on the definition because that's a really hot topic. I want to talk about traditional women what women we grew up with
Mm,
versus today modern women.
mm,
There is a clear distinction between how the women act, how, the standards. And I know when I was growing up, I grew up in a family where we went to church. So,
mm,
church was really, really big.
mm,
And there was a certain standard. There was a certain way you dressed. There was a certain way you act. There was a certain expectation of you,
mm, mm,
you know, and my mom used to always say that, when you go out, you not only represent yourself, but you also representing me, and I see women of today, younger women, even older ones.
mm,
And I know that I grew up in a two-parent household, and I keep bringing it back to that because it does matter. It makes a big difference in the standards that your parents set and instill in you
mm,
versus some of the women today. It was just unheard of when you go out and all your cleavage is showing,
mm,
your
mm,
breasts hanging out.
mm.
That you would wear a see-through dress in the street where your bra and panties are showing. That is not a dress.
Yes, absolutely. It's definitely a different from the traditional woman and today's modern day woman. And you correct. I grew up in a two family home with two parents in a home as well. There was more, I mean, you see more of the church on the scene, like, more religion was going on in the homes too. And today, women, there's so many men not in the homes with these women that having these children, especially when these little girls are around, that the women are not putting their foot down like the fathers did when the fathers were present in the home. So there were things that we had to do, that we had to obey. There was a way that I could even dress, when I was coming up. But the girls today, it's like babies raising babies. I remember someone saying that when I was only in my late 20s. Babies are raising babies with no structure, no real things laid down about what you should be doing, what you should be wearing, and where you can go and cannot go. All the way
But
to
you
how
know what,
you
Coach?
can play outside. Kids today, they get to go, they're not listening to these young parents. And that is the big difference to me. And
Well,
that's why we have so many
and
problems.
that's a topic for another show because I do want
For
to talk
sure.
about that. We are going to have a show on teen pregnancies, you know, single mothers, and that is one of the influences of today, of the women of today, and their standards of how they dress, how they act, and we have a lot of things that's influences the behavior of women today versus um, traditional women, as they
Hmm.
would say, the pick me.
Hmm. Let me
And
say, let me say this also, Dr. Stevens. You remember in yesteryears, your community kind of knew your families, the neighbors knew each other, and neighbors would speak on get in that house because you ain't got no business being outdoors right now. They knew if your parents probably wasn't home or not home. We don't have that really going on anymore. It's like people are like, I'm minding my business. That ain't got nothing to do with me. Versus back when we were coming up, you know, the community or the neighbors knew what was going on their block.
and
So
and and coach, that also influenced how a woman acted.
yes,
That
yes.
influenced how she acted. That influenced how she dressed. So when we start talking about the pick me and the modern day woman, you can see, and I call them the traditional woman, and you'll see more of that once we get into the definition. Um, you can see how the influence of the church, the neighbors, the expectation just are totally different.
Mm,
Um, I saw a commercial where a mother was talking to her daughter, and the daughter picked up her cell phone and said, "You would know this if you would get your ass off." And the next thing you saw was the mother looking down at the daughter, says, "You all right? You awake now? You
Mm,
okay? You
mm,
know, you you,
mm.
you got beside you because she done knocked her out." That's what happened. She didn't hit her. But you see now,
Oh my
young
gosh.
girls, young girls have no respect for the elders. But
Mm.
we're going to get deeper into the pick me and the modern day woman when we come back. We're going to take a quick break, but Coach Yava will be introducing our special guest to the show. Stick around. This is really about to get hot.
Hey, I'm Dr. Michelle Stevens, a certified master life and wellness coach and minister of the gospel. I help women move from stagnation to certainty, uncover who they are, create goals, and build strategies to success. Schedule a 45-minute consultation with me and let's jumpstart your journey to a new beginning. You may email me at contact us at drsnsshow.com, or you may call to schedule a session with me at 866-377-7469. And let me help you heal mind, body, and soul. Step out of ordinary into extraordinary.
I am Coach Yava Swearington, and I am a professional certified life coach and a relationship consultant. I help individuals and couples with relationship concerns. I will assist you with the tools you need to have the power to let go of a relationship that no longer serves you and or to strengthen your relationship. I am looking forward to impacting, empowering, and restoring the sense of self. Schedule an individual or group session with me at toll-free 1-866-377-7469 extension 800 or you may email me at contact us at drsnsshow.com. Remember, seek clarity, embrace it. That's a part of taking care of you, and you will begin to notice that the storm has settled.
Today, we have a few men that are invited to give their views on dating and what they look for when considering a wife. We have Ernest Jackson, Emeka Anyawa, and Floyd Harris.
Today, we have been discussing dating and why you can't make it to the altar. Well, today we have some special guests with us. This is sure to be hot. But I'm going to bring Coach Yava in so she can introduce our guest. Coach Yava,
Hi, and welcome. Welcome back. So, today we are definitely going to be talking about some high value men that we consider. And we're going to give you a small introduction of them. So, our first guest, his name is Ernest Jackson.
so our first gentleman coming up is Ernest Jackson.
Hey, what's going on, everyone?
Hey, Ernest, how are you?
I'm
Why
doing
don't you
all right.
introduce yourself and you can tell just a little bit about you before we start getting into these questions?
My name is Ernest Jackson. I am a CPL construction program leader for HEB and also have my own general contracting business called United Arms General Contracting. Based out of Houston, I travel to Austin, San Antonio, and other parts of Texas for work. Currently single, and like I said, I'm pretty much from Houston.
Well, Ernest, thank you so much for joining us and being one of our panelists of men. And so I want to ask you the very first question. Women out here are looking to be found to be a wife, and some of them really don't even know what that is or how to be a wife. But more importantly, we want them to know what men really look for. So my first question is, when considering dating just alone, What are some of the
Mm.
first things you consider when you meet a woman and you consider dating her? What are the first things you consider?
Well, some of the first things that I consider when dating a woman is what type of morals she has for herself. Like, how does she carry herself? Is she church oriented? Does she has a career? What is her mindset set right now? As far as like age, how old is she too young or is she too old? Does she have any type of schooling, educational background? If not, I mean, not saying that it's a big deal breaker, but I would like to bring someone home that has some type of educational background. And is she already in her career field? That's one of the main things. Also, or will I be the type of man that'll come into her life and actually help her achieve those goals as far as her own career? So those are some of the main things. Just I'm really big on like just having uh, morals, respect for herself, and make sure she has like goals. Those are the things that if you're not working towards anything, then that tells me you're really not doing much with yourself. So those are some of
That's
the things that
that
I
is
consider.
important. Okay.
Yes.
Well, thank you for answering that question, sir. I'm going to bring up Mr. Emeka Esquire here to answer the same question. Mr. Emeka,
Pleasure to
how
meet
you doing,
everyone.
sir?
Great, great. Thank you for having me.
Well, also I want you to tell a little bit about yourself and congratulations on being engaged. That's important.
Thank you, thank you. So yeah, and I really do appreciate that. Just a little bit about myself. My name is Emeka Anyanwu. I'm based out of Houston, Texas, by way of New Jersey. Um, Born and raised in New Jersey. Currently, I'm an attorney at a law firm down here in Houston, doing mergers and acquisitions and other corporate transactions on a daily basis. So just a little snippet about myself.
Well, Mr. Emeka, I want to ask you the same question I've asked Mr. Ernest. When considering dating, what
Mhm.
are the first things you consider when dating a woman?
Yeah, and that's a great question. So some of the things that I've considered when dating a woman initially would be more so: is she, I guess, does she have certain goals, or is she ambitious to a point where we could have certain things in common during conversation? A couple of other things I look for is, what is, what her religious values are, because I'm very big in, in the church, as well as any type of cultural value she has, if not on in her own background, just an appreciation for other cultures, being of Nigerian descent myself. So uh, along with that, a lot of things of, does she have a sense of humor? What she holds in terms of priorities ahead of others. So what are her 5 year, 10 year, and beyond goals? So definitely put a huge emphasis on that when first approaching or even having any discussions of interest with a woman.
Well, I think that's important, especially having goals. Because Mr. Ernest, he also said, having goals was important, educational level was important, and I think women need to know these things that, when a man is considering them, having goals is very, very important. Because I too believe in when you even consider dating a man, knowing that he have goals that you can help him accomplish or that he's going to accomplish, that he's seeking to achieve some things. That's very, very important. Thank you for that. I want to bring up Mr. Floyd Harris at this time. Other guest here, we're going to bring up Mr. Floyd Harris because we're going to ask him that same question, get his take on that. Mr. Floyd Harris, how are you? I want you to introduce yourself and tell our audience a little bit about you.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having me on your show. Now, my name is Floyd Harris. I'm originally from Washington, D.C. I reside here in Ohio, Chillicothe, Ohio. So she can get it right, okay?
Yes.
I see the age difference here on the show. I'm a little bit more spontaneous. My thing is, when I look in a woman's eyes and we having a pleasant conversation everything comes out. And I kind of look at her and the way she pronounces her words and how sincere she are, because I'm looking into her. And she don't have to have too much of everything, as long as she's a good person, a good Baptist, church going girl. And I really like those things about a woman. And other things, it will fall into place or it won't. So chances are, you when you're out there dating, you're going to discard some, you're going to keep some. And the ones that rise to the top, then those the one you consider dating, because
So,
everybody has goals, everybody has plans.
that's important. And one thing you said, Mr. Yemeka said the same thing, was her spirituality, her religion. So that's important to a man, that a woman has a religious following, a religious background.
Right. Yes. Yes. Because you have to follow our heritage as well. Because we are,
Hmm.
Black people are very religious anyway, even though they
Right.
say they're not, but they come from a religious family. And
Yes.
sometimes you have to seek and find those women who are like that, because they're not even all out there. I'm 61 years old. I I can only speak for myself, because the way I met my wife and how we connect the dots and tie the knot is totally different from anybody else.
I understand. Well, thank you for answering that question. Right now, I'm going to bring up Coach Yava. Coach Yava, our men have answered our first question. So I want to bring you up and let's talk for a minute. There were some things they had said that really, really struck, were pointed, highlighted for me. One was goals, one was their spirituality. I even heard Master King Ernest say that if she have goals and even being able to help her to achieve them, and I thought that was really, really something that was important and struck out for me, because that's not, you don't hear that a lot. So on the things that you heard, what do you say?
Well, one of the things they all the gentlemen seem to have common interests as far as what they're looking for, which is kind of good across the line, because it kind of gives insight to let women know, hey, they're not looking at some of these things you think they're looking for. I really like one of the comments that Mr. Floyd stated was he looks in, which was a little different from the other two gentlemen. He stated he looks into her eyes. That was huge for me, because to me, the eyes is the window to the soul. So it's like he looks for a little something deeper through the eyes, because the eyes tell everything just about. And so he's one of those men that can have a conversation and see a lot through that conversation just by looking at her and as she engaged and talked with him. So I really like that he stated that. Also, the other two gentlemen as well, they both the spirituality side. Do you go to church? Religion. All of that seems to be very important to all three men. I felt I got it more so from the first two, because they brought that up quickly. So that was something that is really governed. So if you want women out there and you're trying to get a high dollar man or a high value man, well, you're looking for them the women in some spirituality and some religion going on. So
Well, how about getting a man that's stable? How about just if you just want a man that's stable and in his right mind? How about
yeah.
that? Well, you know what? Before we go on to our next question, because I want us to get on to our next question. Um, right now there's this cliche that the women got going on about the pick me woman and the modern day woman. So that's one question I want to bring up to the men. But before we do, I want to give the definition for the pick me and the modern day woman. First thing I want to say is I don't know when the value that women have changed. The pick me woman is one who displays the characteristics of the traditional woman, who doesn't mind cleaning, supporting her man, who knows how to take care of herself, her house. She's submissive, and that's a touchy word right there. Cooperative, and knows how to help her man to get to the next level. But before we continue on, when I think about the traditional woman, I think about the Proverbs 31 woman. And I want to read this because we're talking about the traditional woman. And Proverbs 31 tells us that the ideal woman is virtuous, strong, and selfless. She does not wait to be served, but rises early, even before sun rises, to delegate tasks and engage in business. She possesses a range of manual, commercial, administrative, and interpersonal skills. This woman opens her hand to the poor and reaches out her hand to the needy. She is loving, dignified, and her virtues increase her husband's reputation. Her husband is known in the gates when he sits amongst the elders of the land. She is sharp but honest, engaged in business for the benefit of her household, and above all, she fears the Lord. For a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. And that's they call that the pick me woman. That's the woman that how she carries herself and she dresses modest and she dresses appeal. Her appearance is modest, so they say. But I believe a traditional woman is sexy. However, the modern woman. This is the definition for the modern woman. One who thinks she is above all others, disrespectful, wants someone to take care of her, who's very loose with her body, loud, shows a lot of masculinity, and dresses very revealing. Now, that's a modern day woman.
Hmm.
And we've seen them, coach. We've seen women today that are loud, think they don't need anybody. They're very loose in their dressing, but they all say they want a husband. So, coach, I'm gonna turn this one over to you. You can invite the men to come back, and we want to ask them: do they prefer a traditional woman? I'm sorry, a pick me, or a modern day woman?
All right, all right. So we're gonna bring up uh, Floyd Harris.
And like I said before, I like a modern day woman. Well, a little bit of both, but we can work on the its and bits and pieces about that. But
Okay.
I would like a woman that the modern day woman is just like Dr. Stevens said, is sexier because she knows how to carry herself. She knows how to speak. You know, I I just want to just a good woman with a good heart and a good soul that know how to reach out to other people and help the poor if we have it. You know,
Okay.
so I prefer that. Than a sassy. You cook your own food, stuff like that. Well, even though I'm capable of doing it, why can't we be in the kitchen together and do it together? We can both make dinner and sit down and have a decent conversation, have a glass of wine, and enjoy our evening.
All
Now, you
right.
get these other women out here they just don't care about too much. Me personally, I really don't want a successful woman because there's too much technicalities in that. I just want a good woman, like I said before, that we can sit down, work together, help each other's grow together, and help each other in our endurance. We can go that way.
Okay.
Okay, well, I want to correct because you said something. I think you had our modern day woman and traditional woman confused because it's the traditional woman that's appealing and sexy that takes care of her home. The modern day woman is one that's loud and loose, and um, so I believe that's what you
The
really
modern
meant.
day woman.
I,
Yeah, yes,
Yeah, the
yes,
modern day woman. Yes, yes, yes,
yes, the quality woman.
yes.
So
Because back when I was growing up, they always, I mean, they're nothing like the women today.
nothing.
They're nothing. They
Yes.
just, yeah, they just don't have no morals, or they they talk real crazy, and uh, I listen. They need a lot to learn about good home training. That's what they need.
I would have to agree with you on that one. I
hmm.
would have to agree with you on that. Coach Yava.
Well, I think he said, a lot that it almost seemed like he was speaking like he would prefer, well, he's not really too picky about the woman. He wants a woman that got a good heart and he'll take a combination of a little mixture there, is what he was kind of saying. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so he doesn't have to have the executive woman or the woman, the CEO of a
No, I do
company.
not. No, I do not.
He doesn't need that. He needs a woman that's going to be down with him.
Right.
That's
You
going
know,
to go through the hurdles with him.
right.
I got your back. You got my back. You don't have to have the degree, but as long as you and me are support each other in our journey and figuring out what this life is all about, then he's saying, I'm down there. I'm with you on that. And that's all I need.
Yeah, because the journey is tough. The journey is tough. And
Right.
a lot of people make a lot of mistakes,
Right.
thinking love for lust.
Yeah. And
Right.
he also saying
Absolutely.
that he don't want the modern day woman as in the way that we have the definition. He still wants her to have some more goodness with her. He wants her to know how to take care of herself, know how to dress and be respectful with her body, her clothing. He wants a little bit of that how did you call it? Traditional woman?
No, he wasn't a pick me woman.
He
Yeah.
wants a little bit of that pick me woman, but
No, he wanted a lot of the pick me woman. He wanted a little bit of the modern woman.
okay, a lot of the pick me woman and
Yes.
a little of the modern women.
Yes.
But a combination of both of them, it just don't have to be extreme.
Yeah, he want to swirl her.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit, because because the journey is, no one knows their journey.
Right.
Until they start taking those steps.
Gotcha.
And once they start taking those steps, then you know each other. You're figuring out each other. You're like, each year, each day, each moment, each hour, each minute, you're learning about each other.
Okay.
And that's when you start to trust each other, or not to trust each other, or if you made a mistake or not. You never know.
Okay. We want to bring up our next guest.
Yes, we're going to bring up Emeka.
Hey, Emeka. So did you hear our definition of the pick me and the modern day woman?
I did.
So what's your take on it? What would you say? Do you prefer a modern woman or pick me?
Yeah, well, similar to Floyd, I would definitely say a little bit of both, but a very high concentration of the I guess traditional, or pick me is the term we're using.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and mainly because what you said, a woman that supports her man and knows how to help him get to that next level. I put I guess speaking for myself, I put a lot of value on that, having a partner and having a teammate, not necessarily a liability to say. So
that's important.
Yeah, so I definitely would want someone who's, when I'm down, I know that she has it, and vice versa. If there's anything you need, I have you, but not to an extent where in the modern woman definition, where I'm actually your caretaker, supporter, and things that sort.
Right.
So definitely, as long as it is we're a team, and we have each other's back. If there's some days I'm cooking today and some days you're cooking today, I wouldn't necessarily need a woman that can cook, clean, or things like that for me, because I know I've been single and I know I can do it myself. But having someone that is just there for you in your corner if you're having a bad day, those are certain things that some of the characteristics of the traditional or pick me woman that I definitely would lean into and want to see out of any woman that I like.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Emeka. We really appreciate that, your answer on that. I don't have any other questions for Emeka, so at this time we will bring in Mr. Ernest Jackson.
Yeah, I think it's really important. It's very interesting how the men are saying that they want a mix of both. You know what I mean? So they kind of like a woman a little sassy, huh?
They like them a little sassy, as long as it's not too sassy to them. They want her to have the ability to be a little, maybe a little stronger. They don't want them too soft, but they want a little sternness in there too, with respect to them. Because I know I get that from my husband.
I find that very interesting, though. That's actually surprising, but I can see that. I can see that. We want a little bit of modern woman in her. We want a traditional woman, but we want a little modern woman in her.
Because they don't want them.
Mr. Ernest has to say.
But hey, before we put on artists, they don't want them to be all that. You know, they want a little fun there. You know, you just gotta
Right.
need to
Absolutely.
play a little bit.
Absolutely. Mr.
Hey,
Ernest, how are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. How y'all doing? How y'all
we
So,
doing
so
good.
did you hear our definition of the pick
doing?
me woman and the modern day woman?
Yes, I definitely heard the definition of both women. I cannot disagree with my two brothers. you gotta you gotta have a little modern in there with the girl, with the woman, right?
All right.
Now I will say this: you don't want too modern. Like you don't want a woman that is loose with her body. That doesn't. I look at a woman like her body is her temple, right? And if it's too
Mhm.
much going in and out of that, then I don't want it, right? So that's like one of the main things that I do look at, um, as far as speaking on just the modern woman herself. I can't see myself a woman with a woman that's constantly uh underdressing or like just having her body exposed for no reason, right? Now don't get me wrong, I would like the girl that I am talking to or the woman that I am talking to be a little sexy for me, like if we're going out to dinner, yeah, or if we're doing certain events or going here and going there, yes, I want my woman to look nice and presentable, but just not too much of it. So I definitely will say there is a little bit of modern in this situation, but for me it'd be the pick me woman. I do want the woman that want me to pick her, that is looking for a guy that's out there searching for the same thing that she's searching for. A woman that is going to be supportive, a woman that is going to be understanding, a woman that can cook and clean. And don't get me wrong, there is brothers that are out there that do cook. You know, I cook probably 80% of the time and 100% of the time when I'm by myself. So um, I definitely would like someone to cook when I have the time to do it myself. I can't be on Zoom calls at work and trying to cook breakfast at the same time. So that's when I do expect the woman to be able to step in and be able to just help me out with that, take a little bit of the stress off of my end. So yeah, definitely, I would say the pick me woman would be my type of woman.
Well, on that note, we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we're going to continue with this deep conversation. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're going to continue this deep conversation with our panelists of men on our topic of dating and why you can't make it to the altar. Coach, I find it very interesting on
Hmm.
the men's take of, how they want to pick me as well as, a mix of some of the characteristics of a modern day woman.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested in seeing what they say is important when considering a woman for a wife. I think that's going to be really, really hot. So for that question, since Emeka just got engaged, I like to bring him up first because I think having him tell us why what was it that made him decide that the woman he just asked to marry him,
Hmm.
is the one. Emeka, hi.
Hi.
So
Yeah,
I have
yeah,
this question for you, knowing that you just recently got engaged, sir.
I
So
did.
the
I did.
question is, what was it that was it so important about her that made you consider her and pick her to be your wife?
Uh, so yeah, it's a list of things to be honest, but I can kind of summarize it to more so saying that saying that when you know, you know. It's just
Um,
we we've been together for a while now, and just everything from the way she carries herself, uh, from the way that she's embraced by my family, I'm embraced by hers, her religious background, views on children or future children, um, views on education, views on location, and just overall goals in the futures. These are all things that went into consideration when I was pondering this decision, and um, and it kind of, you kind of put together a checklist that that, all right, you got all of the boxes here. So when you know, you know.
Well, I have a question for you because you say y'all been together for a while. And, in our show, one of the things we talk to women about is how long is too long. So, what is a while for you? What's the timeline that you say y'all been together for a while?
So we've been to, well, first of all, we went to college together,
Okay.
spent some time apart from each other, and didn't work out in college. We went our separate ways, and when it like if it works out in a way where that person is meant for you, you'll find your way back to them, and that was the case in this situation, and that's when you kind of know, okay, I'm giving this another try. I'm going in with it with a different mindset now, a mindset for the future and long-term future. So if it doesn't work out, no harm, no foul, no hard feelings. But you also have to, as a man, put your best foot forward, knowing that this is the outcome that I want in this relationship, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure it gets that way. So to answer your question, it's more of a mindset thing, in terms of the years that we got back together on that second
Okay.
time around. It was about 3 years, and from there, even through there, I was just checking off boxes mentally as we go along, to kind of pick her brain and know where her head is at, and also know if I'm ready and know what I want out of life. And those things aligned, and I feel like I made the right decision.
Okay, well, while I have you here on this screen, I'm going to
Mhm.
ask you the next question. Since you
Okay.
since you checked off all your boxes,
Yeah. Yeah.
what would you say is a deal breaker when considering her for a wife?
Mm, okay. Yeah, that's a very good question. A deal breaker for that I was considering her or anyone in general, would be someone who's, I guess, a bit too friendly in a way when it comes to the opposite sex.
Okay.
That could be, let's say, a plethora of guy besties, or um, just that sense of needing validation through social media. Um, I got to get likes, or I got to get this person to look at me, wearing the most revealing clothes to get that, to seek that certain
That
attention.
attention.
Yeah, so that, I guess, that would be one of the deal breakers for me, because it's not a value that I would want to instill in, let's say, if I do have a daughter, I wouldn't want that to be a focal point of her life, or moving uh, forward in generations. So that those are certain things that I personally look at, along with some of the things we mentioned earlier in the dating side of things. But also a deal breaker would be views on children as a whole. Like, if someone told me they didn't want any kids, and I know that I did, uh, we obviously wouldn't work, because I personally wouldn't think that that's something that either party would want to compromise on. So, you know, that's just a few of the deal breakers that I would view. Another one, big one that we mentioned before, was religion. Um, you don't necessarily have to be super religious, or someone who has the same values, but there is something to be said about a woman who can humble themselves before the higher power.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I want to ask Mr. Floyd Harris that same question because he is married, Coach.
Well, before we ask Floyd Harris a question, actually wanted to go back to Mecca because he kind of touched on. We'll bring Floyd up in a second. He kind of touched on something about children, and that is like one of our questions. So for him, if you can bring Emeka back to the screen. So for him, he preferred to it would be a deal breaker for him if the woman was not interested in having children.
Well, let's
So
get to that. Let's let him answer that question once we get to, because that is one of our questions. So let's bring Floyd in so Floyd get this, and then we'll get back to that question,
well,
because
that's
that is one of our
because he
questions.
kind of brought it up in his comment when he was making his comment on
Yeah,
the deal breaker.
because that is one of our questions. So let's bring him up when we ask that question. So
Okay,
let's
go ahead.
ask Floyd that same question, Mr. Floyd Harris. Our question is, what would you say is a deal breaker when you consider someone for a wife?
Well, my situation was a little different. I met my wife in Myers, and we worked together. Didn't know each other. I was folding baby clothes, and she was working in electronics, something like that. And when we met at the dumpster of all places, and right then it just clicked, and we spun every waking moment together. We traveled together. We had deep conversations about life in general, about our goals in life, about her goals in life, where she want to be at this point in time in a certain amount of years. And I told her about mine. And 60 days went past, and we got married. And 27 years later, we still in the struggle together. And she was always down with me. She was always there for me when I was going through some tough times with my family. And I was there for her. We kind of picked each other up and kept moving forward. And and I knew right then I was not going to let her go or leave my side. And she said the same thing to me. And like I said, 27 years later, who would believe it? Me, Mr. Floyd Harris. And back then I was just a regular old Joe Blow trying to make my way through life, join the military and trying to find myself. But when I met her, just like Emeka said, when you know, and I wasn't gonna let
Right.
that go because I have never ran across someone as she was just spontaneous. She had an outlook on life like I have never seen before, kind of like me, and it was kind of scary. But as we went through our trials and tribulations, we made it work. 5 kids later, 27 years later, I can I can sometimes I wake up in the morning and I have to pinch myself. Are you still here? you know, but here we are. We doing it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I want to bring up Mr. Ernest to ask the same question. Although he is not married, but he is a prime candidate to be married to some woman out there. So I definitely want to bring up Mr. Ernest to see his take on what he would be a deal breaker in him just considering someone to be a wife. On on their take on what they consider the deal breakers, and the things they looking for. Is going to give some women some good insight. Mr. Ernest, how are you, sir?
Before you
How you doing,
respond,
Dr.
Ernest,
Stevens?
before he respond, he can speak on this subject because when he's looking at women and engaging in possibly dating women, he already know, okay, this is a deal breaker. I definitely don't want to be with her. So yeah, I can't wait to hear his views on this subject or this
So,
question.
yes, I am single, so I am going to make it sizzle and I'm going to make it hot, keep it hot. And I'm going to let you know.
I know that's right, sir.
And,
Right.
and I'm going to let you know when I know. All right.
All
But
right. Okay.
some of the things that, well, are we going back to the third question to where you were asking, um, I believe, um, what was it?
What's important
Some
to
of
you
the
when
things that,
considering a woman
yeah,
for a wife?
yes, considering a wife.
Oh,
One of the
yeah.
main things that's very important to me when considering a wife is I need to know if she gets along with her mother, right? That's a really
Hmm.
big deal to me because I want to make sure she gets along with my mother. All right. So that's one of the main things that I look at when considering a wife. It normally takes me a couple of minutes within the conversation, the first 5 minutes. I know right then and there whether this is going to be a woman that I either pursue or if I'm just going to just not pursue at all and just entertain for the time being. So I definitely look at that and considering that as far as a woman, a candidate as far as being a wife. Um,
So how about our
other
next
things that
question? What would be a deal breaker?
oh, deal breaker, number one thing for me, I want to have kids. So that is a big deal breaker for me. If she has kids already and she don't want kids, then that's a big uh deal breaker for me. Uh so that's like one of the main things. Anything outside of that, I can pretty much work around or try to mold her. I'm not gonna say mold her to someone that I want her to be, but uh definitely the kid situation is one of the main, if not the only thing, right? If she don't want kids, then what I'm doing here? I have to have somebody that's gonna live on with my legacy. So that's definitely the main thing.
Well, being
Nice.
that you brought up the kid situation, that is one of our questions. Um,
Yes,
would you date a woman with children? Well, our question is, do
absolutely.
you prefer to date a woman with kids or without kids?
Absolutely. So it just really depends because I have friends that I've went to high school with, college with, that have kids now, right? But I knew them prior to them having kids, or I was
Mhm.
around their kids as we were growing up, or as they were growing up, to where if I would to look back and say, hey, you know, it's been 15 years, I still ain't found nobody. So how about I join your family? I don't mind. I wouldn't mind doing that, especially if she was open to having even more kids. Then yeah, of course I would date a woman that I already know, obviously, and like I said, she must have to have more kids.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna say for the women that's out there that's single that have uh I will put a number on it though. You can't have like three, four kids running around. I can't. I'm sorry, but one or two, that's fine, right? And I would like for them to still be young. I don't want to have to make sure I gotta discipline someone else's son that's in high school. Like no, I don't want to. I don't want to have to go through that.
I
That's too much of
understand.
a
I
headache.
understand that responsibility, not wanting that
Yeah,
responsibility. Yeah, because
yeah. I
having
wouldn't want that responsibility.
raising
But
somebody else's children is a responsibility.
Yes.
Absolutely. I want to
yeah,
I want to ask Mr. E. Mecca that same question, being that he, recently got engaged. I think, when you're considering dating someone and they have children, it is a lot to consider.
Hmm.
mm,
And also,
it
Ernest, let's
is.
ask you. Let's go back to the last question, because we changed it. So, what would be a deal breaker when considering a wife for you?
Like I said, the deal breaker would be if she doesn't want kids. That's like the main thing. If she doesn't want kids, um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's just the main thing. If she doesn't want kids,
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank
Yeah.
you.
If we can bring up Mr. E. Mecca, I'd like to pose that same question to him as far as children are concerned. I think we're getting some real interesting
Answers.
insight to how these gentlemen think and what they're looking for. And I'm really, I can't really say I'm surprised about the, wanting the mix of the pick me woman and the modern day woman. You
Hmm.
know,
I
a
can
woman with
agree
a
with
little
you.
sass, a woman with a little sass, and some values, some morals, some goals.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you because I think about me being I'm married, almost hitting 20 years, and yeah, my husband views are very similar to these three gentlemen. So I would say I'm not surprised. But it will show to the women who doesn't see how they see things at all. It will have insight for them
Hmm.
because we have a
Yeah.
lot of women who think totally different.
Hmm.
They think you have to
Absolutely.
show all, reveal all, tell all kind of situation to even catch a man. And that's the first thing they were looking for. Well, a high value man, at least.
Well, just there are some men who are blue collar workers who have very good morals and values.
Yeah, that's true.
They're not six-figure earners, but they have morals and values that's par none. That a woman, regardless to whether she's making six figures or you know or a income that they would consider to be a high income, may pass them over, you know, in missing the man that has these values. They could bring
Mm-hmm.
them some peace and joy and happiness and love.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree with you. I agree with you because it has a lot to do with, their values, how they view things and see things before the income is even in place. A lot of these things, men start taking on to what they would see. A lot of time they're looking at somebody similar to their mom, or the lady that raised them, or the home environment that they came up in. That is part of what they start looking at. You know, when they are going out in the world, it's just, you know, let me just see what's out there. They don't have no idea what who's gonna approach them or how the meet is gonna be. So yeah, so they get that insight from their upbringing, like how they were brought up. So yeah,
or how or what
their
they didn't
environment.
see. Some
Mhm.
men,
Yeah.
didn't have mothers that had values and morals that I would consider valuable, and they're looking for something different. So yeah,
Mhm.
if we could get Mr. Emeka on to come back and speak with us right now, I'd like to ask him this question considering dating a woman with children.
Hey,
Hey, Mr. Emeka, how are you?
I'm great, great.
So did you hear our question as far as dating a woman with kids or without
Yeah.
children,
Yeah.
or marrying her? What would be your take on that?
Okay. Well, this is hypothetically speaking because currently fiance has no kids. But hypothetically speaking, I would say I would prefer a woman without kids, but I wouldn't, be completely cut off from a woman with kids. Um, Granted, there is a age range to that. I would prefer younger, maybe one or at max two. Um, but also, I understand that there's a different type of responsibility that comes with that, with raising someone else's children and the level of involvement of the other parent. So I would factor that in and take that into consideration. But ideally, I would prefer to date a woman without kids. I don't have any kids, and I would prefer that we go into this together without.
That's important to know. That's important to know, and I can understand that because having dating someone with children is a big responsibility. So we can bring up Mr. Floyd Harris, who's been married 27 years. We're going to ask him that same question before we go on, before we get ready to bring this to a close. Mr. Harris, hey, how are you, sir? Did you hear that question? Although I know
Yes,
you've
I
been
did.
married 27 years, sir. What's your take on dating a woman or marrying her, consider her for marriage, a woman with children?
Well, both of the gentlemen I do respect very deeply, and they have good points. But that's an individual choice. Uh, my choice is it didn't matter because if the woman had a child, because I have seen a lot of women marry men and they took care of those children and they called them dad, put them through school, college, whatever. You know what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
met my
Absolutely.
wife. I met my wife. She had a child. I saw how she, I saw the great responsibility she had of feeding, clothing, putting, keeping a roof over their head. All I did was add into the factor and making her life a little bit better. That's all I did. Now, as for the child, he has a choice. He doesn't have to call me dad. He doesn't do nothing. As long as I'm there to make his life fulfilled and making sure he has a way of making it in this world. Because it's very complicated out there.
Okay. Um, we're going to bring Mr. Ernest up. But before we do, I want to ask this very important question while we have you on the screen here. What is that? What is it that you dislike when it comes to women? Well, she brought Mr. Ernest up. Mr. Ernest, you want to answer the question again about your preference in dating a woman with kids or without children?
Yeah, I wanted to just add to that question because I've had friends who dated women with kids and it didn't turn out so good. So I'm not saying that I won't date a woman with kids, but you just can't leave your kids with me, right? And that's that's what happened. That's what happened to one of my closest friends, and I'm going to tell you a quick story about what happened to him and why I changed my mind about dating women that does have kids. One day, my friend, he was at home asleep, and his girlfriend obviously came over to his house and dropped off her son. Now, remind you, her son is only about 2, 3 years old. So he went to sleep on the sofa, and also the kid went to sleep on the sofa, right? Uh, but when he woke up, the kid never woke up, right? So now at this point, who's at fault? Who responsibility? Who does it fall on when that kid didn't make it? So I had a friend, a real close friend of mine, that actually went to jail behind something like that for 3 years, and he just recently got out and proven innocent. They found out that that he didn't do anything to harm a child, but it's just a simple fact that the mother of the child, she wasn't by my friend's side while he was in it the whole time. She was out partying out there in Vegas and doing all other types of things. Probably got insurance claim money and just having a good time and enjoying herself. When I'm the one supporting my friend in jail, putting money on his books, making sure he's straight, making sure he's keeping a fresh mindset. So that's why it's very important, if you are going to date someone with kids, that if you're going to date them, make sure they go home. The kids go home with them. Like I said, don't leave your kids with me, because I'm gonna be right behind you and I'm gonna drop them right back off at your house. So yeah.
That's important. My father, I call my father, he married my mom who had 5 children, and I couldn't have had a better father. But I know when I was dating and didn't have any children, I would not date a man who had children. So, and I understand that. And I would tell men who don't have children not to date a woman with children, because it's a big responsibility. Because you're not only just dealing with the mother and the child, then you have all the other outside um, influences to consider. If the father is still involved, how long, how many children, how old are the children? So those things are very, very important. So while we have you on this line,
Hold on, I want to make a comment. I want
go
to make a
ahead,
comment
Coach.
on that as well. I'm kind of mixed about that because I'm into going into a 20-year marriage. Someone married me with children. Probably if I hadn't had children or something, I probably would have felt different. After I see a lot that he went through in raising children, I I, I pretty much feel like I would say don't marry a woman with children. Because it is a big responsibility. However, there are people out there in the world that need a man to come in and help the woman with their child. And so I don't want to really take away from that. But I think each person going in, you really have to get to know the woman and her children before you even think about taking her hand in marriage. I mean, really spend some time with the whole family as a whole. That's when, if you're going to marry somebody with children, that's what I would say.
Well, we are about to bring this to a close. I want to ask this very last question here.
But
Do you believe it is hard to find a good woman, especially in today's world?
yes, it's very hard, but at the same time, they are out there. You just got to know where to find them and where to look. But they are out there.
We can bring up Mr. Floyd Harris. And while we are waiting for other guests to appear, I want to tell you to definitely join us. Go to our Facebook page and our YouTube at drsnsshow.com. Subscribe and like our channel. You can also find other topics on that we're discussing on our website at www.drsnsshow.com. Mr. Floyd Harris, our question: although you have been married for 27 years, do you believe that it's hard to find a good woman, especially in today's world?
Well, you can find a good child out there, but as for finding a good woman, they are out there. They are really out there, but it's like finding a needle in a haystack sometimes, because a lot of them out there, I don't even know what I don't even know what they're thinking. I don't even know what they're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But because it's all about them. It's all it's really pathetic, to be honest with you.
Mm.
It's really pathetic, but different strokes for different folks.
So are you saying it's pathetic in the way that they carry themselves, presenting themselves? You know,
Well,
because
they put everything
I
out
can
there, just like the gentleman said, they put everything out there. So it's just it's nice to be revealing, but not too revealing. You know what I'm saying? I'm more of
Mhm.
an old school, long dress, makeup, hair did, nails did a little bit. A little sassy, not too sassy. You know what I'm saying? It's just hard out there today. I mean, it's like they didn't listen to their mother or their grandparents. They just talk crazy. You
Yeah,
know, and
that's a topic for another show. We're gonna
yeah.
bring up Mr. Ebeka, our last guest here. If we can bring him up to answer this question before we close out on this topic. Mr.
Mhm.
Ebeka, did you hear our conversation? The
I
question:
did.
do you believe it's hard to find a good woman, especially in today's world?
I did, and I honestly do. I do think it's hard nowadays to find a good woman, and that's mainly because of the extra or added pressures of just society in general, like social media or just the influence of social media, dating apps, where all you have to do is swipe nowadays. If someone gets you angry, you can go find another one. And, you know,
Absolutely,
it,
absolutely,
it's hard. There's just too many options.
absolutely, absolutely.
They
And
got
so,
cougar.com now.
He says swipe.
He
Yeah,
said,
okay.
like
so
that,
it's hard.
left to right.
Yeah.
But
Well, you
that's
know,
important.
I think there's good men out there and good women out there. And like you said, they are hard to find. And sometimes people just need to reassess some things because I know they're out there because we have one available online right now. So so
Take away their cell phones.
they're out there.
Take away their cell phones.
Mm, yeah.
Well, I
You
want
think
to
so?
So,
thank you, gentlemen, for joining us in this conversation in our show, dating and why you can't make it to the altar. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll continue to move forward. Thank you, gentlemen, once again.
Thank you.
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you for having us.
Let's take a quick break. And when we return, we will have Dr. Stevens read the cherry note.
Been here since day one. Hey, it's your girl, Coach Lady Q, asking you to join me on the Glow 365 TV every first Tuesday for the Mea Allman Show, hosted by yours truly, followed by the second Tuesday with Holistic Health Show with Coach Dawn. We stroll down to the third Tuesday with On Q Show, hosted by Evangelist Coach Lady Q. Then we close out the month with the Sophie G Show, hosted by Coach Sophie G. Join us as we go live on Facebook and YouTube at Glow 365 TV Show every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time as we talk about the mind, body, and soul. A conversation you don't want to miss.
Welcome back. Before I read the cherry note, if you have a situation and would like some answers, please write us a cherry note. You may email us at contact us at drsnsshow.com and please label it the cherry note. We have a cherry note from one of our viewers, and I think it's such perfect timing. Coach, let me read this cherry note real quick. It's very interesting. The cherry note reads, Dear Cherry Note, I'm writing you. I'm writing to you because I have a dilemma. I've been dating my boyfriend for about 4.5 years. And in the beginning, things were great, as they always are. We did everything together. Together, we traveled, partied, went to church, you name it, we did it together. We had so much fun, and I just knew I had finally met the one after getting out of an abusive marriage of 12 years.
Mm.
As time has passed, like most relationships, we have settled into a routine. But let me tell you a little about myself. I have 6 children, all grown, 4 boys, 2 girls. 2 of my sons are incarcerated. One is on home confinement, and one is living his best life. 2 girls. One of my daughters just moved back in with me, along with her daughter, my grandchild, a little girl. And then my boyfriend also stays here a lot of the time. And my boyfriend, excuse me, and before my kids moved back, he stayed here all the time. He practically moved in. He even let his apartment go. He doesn't pay any bills here, and I buy all the food. But here is where the switch up comes in. I don't drive because I don't have a driver's license. So he would take me to work. But lately, he doesn't want to do that either. We are beginning to argue a lot. And he now stays out all night, and sometimes he's gone for days at a time. I woke up one morning and he had fixed breakfast. But when I went into the kitchen, I found out that he had only fixed breakfast for himself. I can't say that he is cheating, but he doesn't say where he stayed either. Prior to my daughter moving home, I thought things were going pretty good. She moved in at the beginning of the year. Before the holidays, we made plans and we were getting along really well. He and I made plans to travel for Christmas and spend Christmas in the Poconos Mountain, a beautiful place for lovers. We had the conversation about us dating for almost 5 years, and all the signs made me believe I would be getting an engagement ring.
Mm.
But on Christmas, we woke up and I just knew things were great. Dinner came and we exchanged gifts. I gave him a beautiful Movado black face men's watch, very expensive. And he gave me a ring and told me it was a friendship ring. My heart fell to the floor. Can you imagine how hurt I felt? I said, friendship? I have given this man almost 5 years of my life and love for him to tell me that we are friends. So here I am, away on a romantic Christmas trip in the Poconos Mountain. Find out the man I love and have been faithful to for almost 5 years tells me we are only friends. I'm floored. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'm not perfect, but a friendship ring? I was expecting an engagement ring. So here I am now in a dilemma. He's at my house living, coming and going anytime he wants, with a key to my front door, sleeping in my bed, and gives me a friendship ring. Really?
Mm.
I want to put his ass out and take back my keys, but I'm not sure how to do that. Please help me out. My emotions are all over the place. I don't know whether to be hurt, furious, or shout for joy. I need some serious advice. Signed, Dilemma, Diamond in the Rough. Coach
Mm.
Yava,
Well, well,
we got somebody who needs some help.
my. Mm. Man, I feel her pain. 5 years and
Almost 5 years, she said, Coach.
a friendship ring
Friendship.
after we done talked about maybe moving to marriage. He gives me a friendship ring after 5 years. What I say to that? Go and kick his tail out. That's what
Well,
I would
well,
say to that.
well,
But yeah, that's just my reaction, because there's a lot being said in this letter.
yeah.
However, you get up and wake up and fix food, and I'm laying right upstairs in the bed, and you got the nerve to fix just your plate. My. Him, the plate, and everything else would have been going out the door. But I don't want to get rational here because this lady is seriously in some pain, and there were signs. There had to be some signs that maybe she just missed. Sometimes we women feel like when we expect things, we've been playing things in our head, and we set up things in our head to things to come to pass. And sometimes maybe she wasn't really listening because there was a lot of signs going on.
Mm-hmm.
Up, coming home late, coming home when you want to come home, like no respect to our household. You just walking up in here like you living single life, like you living by yourself. Clue, that was a sign. So it's like, was she really paying attention to the sign? Because somewhere she got the message. Somewhere through his action and how he was responding to her and how he was treating her. Maybe they did have the conversation. Was it 3 months prior to the holidays? Maybe 6 months prior to the holiday? Somewhere along that time before those holidays. I mean, really, he shouldn't even went on a trip. But, I'm going a little too far, because I think that there's a shift that has happened, taken place in what he wants with this woman. Maybe he did have good intentions to marry her. Sometimes men tell you things that they really have good intentions to do or plan to do, but somewhere along the line, they changed their mind. And yet you didn't get the news. Either
Well,
you
what, Coach?
because you were paying attention, or you didn't get the news because he didn't tell you. Because sometimes men don't tell you too, and they take you on this little rabbit run. You think roller coaster.
Well, let's go back, because remember we had talked about um, the checkoff list. Everybody has a list. And then did she ever have the conversation of marriage? She never said that they were talking about it. She just said it looked like um, things were moving in that direction. She said things were going pretty good, and we were getting along. So
Okay.
she says we had the conversation about us dating for almost 5 years, and all the signs made me believe I would be getting an engagement ring. She never said that they had a conversation about them getting engaged. And then,
correction.
Coach, sometimes we fool ourselves. We fool ourselves thinking, she was in a situationship, thinking she was really in a relationship. One, she said in her letter, the guy moved in with her and he wasn't paying any bills and she was buying all the food. So he was living for free. Girl, you didn't think you was getting married? I'm sorry, you couldn't have thought that.
Mm.
And again,
she could have thought that.
Yeah, you're right. But
why would you want to marry someone who ain't even contributing to the household? What? Newsflash.
And not only that, remember when I asked those questions, are you dating someone with a vision? What was his vision? Were y'all even having those conversations?
Absolutely.
Were you even having those conversations? And that takes us. But let's give her an answer real quick before we move on, because this leads us right into girl, wake up. Are you a wife? Or are you just temporary? But I'm going to give her this answer because she was looking for an answer. She says, I want to put his ass out and take back my keys, but I'm not sure how to do that. Please help me out. My emotions are all over the place. I don't know whether to be hurt, furious, or shout for joy. I need some serious advice.
Well, my advice on that is least confrontation. We're talking about people here. Just go to Walmart or your nearest what's the other hardware store? Lowe's or somebody, and just go and get you some locks and change those bad. And if you don't want to do that, make a phone call. They got a locksmith. They can come over and change the locks for you.
Absolutely.
Just change the lock. There is no explanation you need to give to me. Or better yet, sit down and let's have a conversation. I mean, because you probably already have the answer, but some of us women just gotta have that conversation. You just gotta hear the man tell you in your face or in your ear that what they don't want or what they do want. So have a conversation. You don't want to be irrational. Just sit down and have a conversation, because you are definitely shocked that you got. Matter of fact, we would have had that conversation when he passed me that friendship ring. We wouldn't have been getting back on the plane or nothing before we left without having a conversation about where we're going.
Well, Coach, at this point, there's no need for a conversation. You already know what it is. One, he's been taken for a ride. Two, change the locks. Don't ask for your key and move on. You have no need for a conversation. And I have one of my biggest advice I tell women when a relationship is over with, you only get 24 hours to cry. You get 24 hours, no longer than 48, to cry. Get over it. Cry, be hurt, take your hurt and move on and allow yourself to heal. Move on. Change the locks. Go ahead and cry. Realize you was played, and move on.
Mm-hmm.
Move on. Heal so that the next man, and get some standards so that the next gentleman you meet, your standards will be different because you're not going to allow a man to come live in your house. She said he gave up his apartment. He's not paying any bills, so you were taken for a ride. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my advice. And I want to move on to our next topic. Girl, wake up. Are you a wife or are you just temporary? What you say about that, Coach?
There's a lot out there that's just temporary and they don't even know. That's what I say about that. I mean, just it really depends on women have to look at their relationship, from the timeline. Like sit down and analyze some things. Sit down and have these conversations that you need in order to get either closure or an answer to what direction, where are you going in this on this ride with this man? You know, what do you? How about this? I'm always about everybody, men and women. I'm about take care of me first, self. Okay, because once I know what I want, I can better tell you what I need you to do for me or not do for me. So for women, I think that you just temporarily if you getting booty calls called to you. You're not even in a relationship. You in a sexual relationship. Okay. I just want to feel good for the day or the moment. Or maybe even tomorrow. Because some of them will keep you in relationship. Women, don't get it twisted. Don't be fooled because they let you spend the night or let you stay in the house all day. Okay. He probably told his other chick he was going to be out of town for a week or two. And you laying up there thinking y'all were moving on. The relationship is just moving fine because men play those kind of games. You know, if you cannot have the conversation about where you stand and where you're going in this relationship with a man, then trust and believe you're probably in a temporary situation or a situation where you're just going to be dating for a very long time.
Situationship. Well, you know what?
Situationship.
We heard from our men, and a lot of them, we was talking about the pick me versus the modern day woman,
Mm-hmm.
and I noticed that in the conversation with them, a lot of them, all of them were saying, they like a mixture of both, a pick me and a traditional woman and a modern day woman because, and I can understand them wanting some spice to life, but here clearly just from reading our cherry notes, you know, one of the questions I asked is, are you with someone who has a vision? Can you support their vision, but do you have a vision of your own? And obviously, that's very, very important. I've heard, a lot of ladies they say they're looking for a husband. But my question is, how many of them really willing to look inside themselves, make the changes to become the wife a man needs? Or do they put themselves in a relationship where they are just temporary?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, Dr. Stevens, yeah, self analyzation. You do got to look into self. You do got to know what you really want. You do got to know, or not be afraid to have the conversations that you need to have for you. And you also got to be ready to hear the answer because sometimes women don't ask because they're not ready to hear the answer. They're not ready to be alone because if you tell them, men will some tell you the truth. Look, I don't know where you got that from because I never said I was even thinking about being in a long term. I told you what I wanted up front. I don't think you were listening to me. So I think that for women, um, it's a lot going on in the world today. And it's like your conversation should kind of tell you a little bit where you really stand. Even if the man ain't really did a lot of speaking. I'm like, how does he treat you? What are y'all doing together? You know, it's like you temporarily. You trying to become permanent. But did you let him know that's what you really want? Or you
Or
still, or
talk
you
about
just
our next topic,
wait a
or
minute,
and
or
if
you
it's
still
just not that into you.
right, or you just still sitting there hoping that he gonna pop the question and tell you he want to be in a long term relationship. Because women do that too. Be
Yes, they
waiting,
do.
waiting for the man to bring it up.
Well, you know what, Coach? That's what I call a situationship.
Mm,
Because a lot of women will get into a relationship or situationship believing, that they can change a man or change his mind, and that's not going to happen. You know, if a
Mhm.
man tell you he's only looking for a friend, he's only looking for a friend. If a man tells you he just want a girlfriend, then unless he's ready, he just want a girlfriend. If he tell you that, believe him. But I read something and I brought it with me today to read. We were talking about he's just not that into you. You
Mm.
know, girl, wake up, are you just temporary? I read this little passage and this is what it says. When a man is truly interested in you, there will be no need for you to do the pursuing.
Mm.
Men are born to pursue women. Yes, you can pursue a man if you want to, but in most cases, that's just an obvious sign that he's not into you. It's not natural for a man to sit back and let the woman do all the work. For a man who claims to like you to sit back and allow you to do all of the calling, texting, dating arrangements, talks about the future, etc., it's pretty obvious where you stand in that man's life. When a man really wants you, he won't have to chase after. I mean, you won't have to chase after him like he's some celebrity or barely who barely has time for a fan. You will be his priority.
Yes, that is. Who wrote that? Because that is so true.
I don't know. I saw this, as just like I saw all the women online. I saw that
Mhm.
online too, and I was like, you know what? That's gonna be perfect for this show,
You
right?
know,
He's just not that into
absolutely.
you.
Because whoever wrote it, I mean, the prescription was written well.
Yes, yes.
Because that's absolutely how I see how men are. Like, yeah, what he just said. You won't have to pursue him. You don't have to chase him like he's some celebrity, as you said in there. Right? Because they give you some men give you signs. It's the conversation. It's how he's treating you. It's like, does he make time for you, or are you begging for his time? Don't get it
Mm,
confused. Don't get it confused. Does he call you, or are you calling him 3 4 times, but he called you once and you still on a cycle? He that all into you.
you doing all the pursuing.
Absolutely. So, yeah, women, take note, because this is some good stuff we're giving you today. If you need to look at your relationship, and I'm gonna tell you something, don't be afraid to snip the ribbon, cut the cord, because it's gonna get cut anyway. It's either gonna run its journey, and it depends on how much time you want to keep giving someone who's not that into you, or you make the decision to make things happen the way you wanted to make things happen.
You know what, Coach? That takes us right into the next topic of he wants you for sex, but not as a wife.
Hmm.
Because, as I tell the ladies, listen, many of us have seen a situation where you are good enough for sex, but not for a relationship. They come with titles such as girlfriend,
Hmm.
friends with benefits, or even just friends. But in all those situationships, you are having sex with this man, Coach. Let's help these women out. What's your take on the subject? He wants you for sex, but not as a wife.
My take on that is just as it is written. He wants you for sex and not as a wife. Pay attention to the signs. Listen, don't get the words in the middle of the night or doing sex as the same message in the morning when you awaken. Can you take off your makeup? Does he still accept you the same way and look at you the same way? Or is he saying something else? Girl, are you afraid to show him all of you? Or do you got to keep covering up, playing all this makeup stuff because women be hiding. How you gonna be wanting to marry somebody, but you hiding how you really look? He don't know your natural beauty. You know, yeah, we love makeup because we like to be adored and all these other things. But men, a lot of them love the natural beauty.
Well, they definitely like natural beauty because my fiance says to me, oh, he used to say to me all the time, I want to see you without the makeup. I want to see you without the makeup. Although I try my best to wear as close as natural looking makeup as possible. Um, but I found out, men like to see a woman in her natural because they want to see what they're getting.
Getting, feeling, touching on. Yeah, take off the fake booties, ladies, because they don't look like that neither. I mean, look good in your clothes, but then you wonder why they treat you differently or why they not taking you to, you ain't got all the assets they want.
There
You
it
know,
is.
that's true too. They want you to be beautiful, of course, and we are already naturally beautiful women, you know, and of course we like to put on a little cover up, because we have little flaws that we don't like to show, but men love to have what I call like trophy women on the arm. They want you to look good. You know, they want you to be sexy. You hear the men, they spoke. I want you to be sexy, and I want you to be um
Spicy.
sexy. You say spicy.
Sexy and spicy.
Sexy spice, not over spicy. You know, sexy, but you know how to act when you in the room. You know
Mm-hmm.
how to act when you in a particular room. They don't
Mm-hmm.
want you to be all over the top, right? When in all rooms. There's a role you must know how to play. There, you need to know how to carry yourself given certain situations. And if you're not able to do that, but you're the same way all the time, no matter where you go, you don't down it up, you know, they don't want that. They don't want that. And they don't want you to be too soft. They want you to be soft with them, but they don't want you to be soft with everybody else. There's a lot going on here, women. Y'all take, I mean, do y'all, I got my ink pen. Are y'all taking notes? It's some good stuff we talking about here. Like, get, no, look, I'm married 20 years almost. I must be doing something right. Take a listen. You know, are you in a relationship? Are you happy? Are do you do more crying than you do smiling? Because
Oh, girl.
if you crying a lot with that man, more than likely y'all probably not going no way. And if you are crying a lot with this man and you do get to the altar, more than likely you're gonna be hitting divorce court before you know it.
Well,
Trust me,
let's
because a
take some
man,
introspect. Let's do that. You know, let's
men,
that's what we got to do. But on
men
that note, we'll be right back. But
wait a minute,
before
before
we
we go to
go,
commercial, girl, because I'm on a rant right now. But before, listen, I really want to tell you, ladies, take these notes down and understand that if you are crying more than you're smiling, there is a serious problem in your relationship. Get some counseling or let it go. Go ahead, Dr. Stephen. I'm so sorry.
well, on that note, we'll be right back. But before we go, if you would like to support us, please, you can cash app us at $ Dr. S and S Show, or you may email us at contact us at drsnsshow.com, or you may call 866-377-7469, and we'll be right back.
Hey, it's your girl, Coach Mea, asking you to join the conversation on the SNS show, hosted by executive producer Dr. Michelle Stevens, along with her co-host, Coach Yava Swearington, sharing an in-depth conversations on relationships, health and wellness, important issues in our society, to the highs and lows of surviving everyday life. Streaming live on YouTube at DRSNS Show. That's DRSANDSSHOW. Monthly, every fourth Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. A conversation you don't want to miss. This show is also powered by Kweliworks Empowerment Network.
Welcome back. I would like to thank you, our viewers, and to say please join us on our next show, Understanding Us, the Black Woman. Ladies, please, if you are in need of coaching, please go to our website and book a 45-minute intro session with either myself, Dr. Stevens, or Coach Yava. I would say to you, ladies, always take self-examination. Make sure you have a vision and seeking after your goals. Coach Yava.
Ladies, yes, take self inventory. Know what you want before you expect to get something from someone else. And then once you know what you want, then make sure the person that you want it from, they also want what you want. If you're not aligning, make some changes. Until then, we do thank you for joining us today on the Dr. SNS show.
Make it sizzle
and make it hot.
Join the conversation on the next SNS show with Dr. Stevens and Coach Swearington monthly every fourth Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, streaming live on YouTube at DRSNS Show. That's DRSANDSSHOW. Also, visit us online at www.drsandshow.com. The SNS Show is produced and powered by Kweliworks Empowerment Broadcast Network. Please visit us online at kweliworks.com. Kweliworks.